The first Intifada, which continued from 1987-88 to 1993, made it very difficult for Israel to continue to rule over people in the occupied territories. It also made it difficult for the world to continue to ignore the situation. As a result, the Israelis realized that they needed to negotiate with the Palestinians and not just with the surrounding Arab countries. The result was a major historic meeting between President Yasser Arafat and Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin under the auspices of President Clinton at the White House. Basically, the PLO was recognizing the State of Israel, while the State of Israel was recognizing the PLO as a representative of the Palestinian people. That led to extensive negotiations over how do we proceed, in theory, towards the two-state solution. What was suggested was known as the Oslo Accords because the Norwegians were involved in the negotiations. The Oslo Accords were a very complex set of rules whereby the Israelis were, theoretically at least, slowly withdrawing from the occupied territories and turning over more and more control to the Palestinians, hopefully to end up with a Palestinian state. Unfortunately, for some people from the very beginning, the goal was not a Palestinian state, but the goal was to create a system for managing the local population while Israel keeps its continued occupation. It's very important to understand the details of how the process worked. The process of Oslo was built on dividing the West Bank into three different types of areas or zones. Area A, which you see on the map, is the area which is already densely populated by Palestinians. This area was designated to be under the control of a newly created Palestinian Authority. Now, in terms of area, this was not very much. This was like 3% of the West Bank, excluding East Jerusalem. But it was where most Palestinians were concentrated. And Israel was very happy to allow the newly created Palestinian Authority to run the affairs of people in Area A. You understand, though, Area A was not connected to each other, so they had to move from one part of Area A to another part by going through Israeli-controlled areas. Second was, again on the map, is Area B. Area B was supposedly joint Palestinian civil control and Israeli security control. About 23% of the West Bank was Area B. Basically, the Palestinian Authority would run the civilian affairs, would provide the services to the population, health, education, and daily governance. But Israel had what's called security control, which means its soldiers could come and go as they pleased, and they would really run the security aspects. Area C, which is most of the West Bank, about 72% of the West Bank, contained all the settlements, as well as all the remaining land in between. Now, the interesting thing is that Area C is all fully connected to each other. They don't need to go through any checkpoints. It's also connected to Israel. So that Area C was under full Israeli control. The Palestinian Authority and the Palestinian police and the Palestinian regulations had no authority over Area C whatsoever. The idea was that more and more of the West Bank would be switched from Area C to B and eventually to A, and Area A would eventually grow to become a Palestinian state. Now, there were certain problems with this idea, but there was a lot of goodwill and there was a lot of euphoria. And people said, yes, we work step by step towards solving the problem. We will leave the difficult questions till the end. Jerusalem, we leave it till the end. What do we do about the settlements? We leave towards the end. What do we do about the refugees? We leave towards the end. What are going to be the borders of this new state? Well, we leave this towards the end. This is a temporary way of moving towards peace. And in fact, there were 2 or 3 shifts of land from C to B and to A. Until Prime Minister Netanyahu came into power, he froze all the changes and started treating all of Area C as if it was totally belonging to Israel and that it will never eventually be given to Palestinians. In fact, today, Palestinians are not allowed to build or utilize their own lands which are in Area C, and the settlers feel that this is now going to become part of the State of Israel, and there are continuing calls to annex all Area C into Israel because this would give them a lot more land without a lot of people. So the Oslo process, which started with so much hope and so much momentum towards a 2-state solution, turned into something that confirmed the occupation and made it a permanent state of affairs. This time with Palestinian approval, Palestinian participation, Palestinian cooperation, as the Palestinian Authority started doing the job of the occupation in relating to its own people.